This is what it's all about, is knowing the goal of this whole 12-week program is really understanding that you can change. Like, we can reprogram our story, we can reprogram our minds, and that's really exciting. I am a hypnotherapist by trade. I am also a certified coach. I Interestingly enough, everyone always, the first question I get is, how did I end up in hypnosis? And it's a really not funny story, but it's an interesting story because it is a strange field to end up in. But I was an avid finger picker. From the moment, like very young, that I can remember, I've always picked my fingers. And it was so bad in high school and college that my friends actually called me hamburger hands, which is not the most like awesome thing to be called when like, there's a lot of awful things to be called, but like hamburger hands, not a great one. And I remember just being always so embarrassed about my hands, like when it was summer or when it was like winter. I would love to winter because I could wear gloves and I didn't have to have anyone looking at them. But during the summer, it was the worst because when you take a bath or you get in water, your fingers swell, and my hands just looked so gross. They were typically bleeding. I wasn't a biter, but I would just be sitting there like this, like anxiously picking. I know a lot of people have nail biting issues too. It happens. And doctors wanted to put me on a very high dose of OCD medication. And I will be the first to admit, I have no problem with medications. I'm so glad that these exist in the world, but I just knew it wasn't the right path for me. And so I tried a lot of different stuff to stop. And, everyone's like, my mother would always be like, just stop, Alex, it's gross. And it's like asking me to stop breathing. It was so ingrained within my mind and body as a tool that I would do, that I just couldn't stop. And one day when I was about, I think I was 26, I was at a wellness center, and my nutritionist at the time looked at me and was like, have you ever thought to try hypnosis? And I was like, no, that sounds wild. Like, sure, why not? What do I have to lose? Like, other than some money, and um, why not? So I booked my session, and within that session, I agreed to myself I was going in with a very open mind as to what I would experience and what to expect. I had very low expectations, but I said I'll expect anything. Like, maybe nothing will happen, maybe something. In that session, I definitely knew I was hypnotized, and we'll get into what that feels like and looks like. And I came out and I was like, okay, I I heard what he said. I took in what he said. Maybe I'll stop, maybe I won't. Like, I didn't feel like someone who wasn't a finger picker anymore. But it was strange because throughout that day, I would go to pick in situations I normally would, like sitting on the couch when nothing else was going on, or maybe when I got a little anxious, and I just stopped. Like, and I can't explain it, but a lot of my clients who I've worked with for smoking, they're like, it's weird. I would just go to like grab a cigarette and I just wouldn't want it, and I'd put it away and or throw it out. And that's kind of what happened. And I was so blown away with the idea that within one session, 60 minutes, maybe it was 90, I can't remember, but it was like that could happen. And it's like, if that could happen, and I've been in years of therapy, what else can we do here? It wasn't until a couple years later that I ended up going back to school for hypnotherapy. I started my practice in Chicago, then moved to New York, and it became my mission. I saw the most amazing things happening. I mentored with my prior hypnotherapist for 2 years, and then I went back to school for coaching. And all of these things really led me to really be an awarded, truly, it was an award and a gift to be awarded one of New York's top hypnotherapists. And I have just wanted to make hypnosis understandable, reasonable, rational. We all, our first association with hypnosis is typically in movies. I think it's funny because I have two little kids, a 3.5-year-old and a 6-year-old. And every time we watch Captain Underpants or The Jungle Book or The Incredibles, they all have hypnosis in it. And my kids are like, Mommy, that's what you do? And I'm like, no, but I get that's why people are afraid of it and they're scared. Um, so it's become my mission to really make hypnosis accessible and understandable. And that's what we're going to go over today. It's really understanding why Why can't we make the change, right? It's like, I've been a finger picker forever. Why can't I change? Why can't I stop this habit? And we'll get into hypnosis. And I hope by the end of at least today's class, you're going to leave here going, I get it. That makes sense. I don't need to be afraid of hypnosis, or I can understand the difference between stage hypnosis and therapeutic hypnosis. So let's get into the basics. What is hypnosis, right? Hypnosis is a natural occurring state that happens every morning when you wake up and every night when you fall asleep. So you go through this state naturally twice during the day. It is what we call a state of deep relaxation with a very acute focus, right? You're very narrowed in. Now, you might say, are you under control during the hypnotic state? The answer is no. Just like when you're falling asleep, you're not under control of sleep. You're still aware as you're falling asleep of the sounds like outside, or if there was a siren that was alerting your mind to something, that might be dangerous, your mind is still going to react. It's going to take that information in and react. But because you're like relaxing and the bed is soft and the pillows are soft and the blankets are relaxing and the temperature is perfect, or maybe to whatever it might be, you are being suggestible to that relaxed state that you actually go right into sleep. And so it's a deep state of relaxation. You also go into the hypnotic state when you're reading a really good book or when you're watching a movie. So I know when I read Harry Potter and then saw the movie, I was like, wait a minute, I feel like I've seen this movie before. And it's because the book is so great at the descriptions that when you're reading at first, right, think about it, your logical mind is kicking in to go, I have to read each word to put it together into a sentence, but at some point it becomes very automatic, right? And your eyes are just streaming across the page. You're not really thinking about each word, and each word forms a sentence, and the sentences build visuals. And so as you're seeing those visuals, that is the hypnotic state. You've become what we call suggestible to the words on a written page, right? You're reading the book, you're feeling the emotions, you're seeing the pictures. That's hypnosis. Movies, same thing, right? You're watching a movie, your focus is so narrowed in. You're not thinking about what's next to you or what's going on outside, or maybe your dog sitting on your lap. You're just so focused on the movie that you become suggestible to what is being talked about and said and done there. And right, it's like it's a scary moment. The music is influencing you. You're allowing those suggestions to come in, right? If you said, I'm not going to be scared for watching this, you've now cut off that suggestibility. You're like, I know this isn't real. I know it's fake. I can put a block up, and therefore then you kind of bounce out of it, right? You broaden your awareness. So these are the hypnotic states. Same with driving, right? Highway hypnosis. I'm sure everyone's heard about it, where you're just sort of in this trance, you're automatically moving, doing, etc. You're not under control. You're just in a very relaxed state with a focus. So this is where we utilize that state as your hypnotherapist or your hypnotist to come in to create change. Now, hypnosis, again, I always like to say when you're working or looking to find a hypnotherapist, it's very important to find there's people who have been trained in how to hypnotize you. It's a very straightforward process. You can learn it in a couple days, maybe shorter, depending on the certifications. But once you're in the hypnotic states, this is where it's important to find someone who's been trained, maybe even trauma informed, because things do come up, but to find someone who has had training that is going to be more extensive than just a couple days of learning how to hypnotize you, because there are some things that can come up that you'd want them to know. So let's get back into it, right? Now that we know what the hypnotic state is, what do we do with it, and how can it help you? So for me, I was a finger picker. Now, I might go back and say, how did that all start? Why did it happen? And I think that's where therapy can come into play. It's wonderful. But let's talk about the different parts of the mind, because hypnosis deals directly with the subconscious. So to understand the subconscious, we really need to break it apart into what are the different parts of the mind. So start at the top. There is your conscious mind. This is where your logic, your reason, your deductive reasoning, your willpower, It's all there in that place. As you're born, right? Everything, you don't have that logical mind as strong. It's learned over time, right? Through the experiences you have. So that brings us to the subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind, which includes your primitive ways of being, right? Your automatic responses. Your subconscious mind is where your behaviors, emotions, reactions, coping skills come from. Guess what? It makes up about 95% of your mind. And that's pretty wild to think because we're logical, rational, reasonable humans. We're taught to be logical, to make deductive reasoning skills, but that's not our primary state. Our primary responses are coming from our subconscious mind. So, how does everything get learned, right? You were born with two fears, arguably three. They are the fear of loud noise and the fear of falling, right? Everything else is learned. You're not born, for example, with a fear of dogs. Um, it's learned over time, and it doesn't have to be a large trauma, right? You don't have to have been attacked by a dog. It could have been a movie that you saw where it was a scary dog, or maybe there was something about a dog that you saw on TV that just as a child made your mind go, I don't like that. And so what happens is when we learn through experiences, we create associations in the subconscious mind going based on the pain and pleasure principle. So we'll say, okay, I let's use I got bit by a dog. I get bit by a dog and I develop the association dogs are scary. Therefore, that's painful to the mind, right? Like I don't like that. Therefore, it creates a coping mechanism. Whenever I see a dog, I'm going to respond, I'm going to react, right? It's going to keep your body is pre-programmed to keep you safe because now you've created this association dogs are scary. Even though the conscious mind will kick in based on what you've maybe been taught or learned or exposed to, that I don't have to be afraid of this dog right now because it's on a leash, because it's behind a fence, because it's a tiny dog, or, whatever it might be. You're going to use your logic to rationalize it to calm that original triggered emotion. And that's where I work, is to understand when someone comes into my office and I'm working with them, what is it that the presenting issue is? And where is that association linkage that's no longer working for them? Now, you've probably seen a lot of stage shows where people come in and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like I was told to do the craziest things I would never do." We'll get into stage hypnosis, but a lot of people are like, "I want you to make me not like chocolate," right? Now, you've probably seen stage shows where they've made people think chocolate looks like poop, right? You're sort of overlaying these two images and giving an alternative. And yes, that can happen. But again, your mind is going to hold tight on what it knows to be true and really wants and believes to be true. So anytime a client comes into my office, they have to have a deep desire to want to change, right? A person who comes in is like, I have a fear of dogs. I'd like to change that. I need to understand what their motivation is and put context around it. Because I hear there's a comment, a question.
There's a question. What's arguable third fear?
I am not sure. Can you clarify what you mean by third fear?
That's from Mandy.
Oh, the third fear. Yes, the arguable third fear. Spiders. I don't know. Danielle Massey, who does shadow work, who's also a neuroscience psychologist. We go back and forth. She had mentioned she's like, nope, it's a built-in innate fear. I don't know that I buy into it, but you know what? Maybe it's true. I'll have to get back to you with some more information on that, but we'll go from there. Thank you for. I'm so sorry I forgot to say that. Thank you, Candace.
She just said thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, where were we? Associations, right? You have to have a desire to want to change. I can't, like, I've had a lot of clients call for their significant others saying, I want them to stop smoking. I would love them to stop smoking based on my own personal belief systems and values as well. But that person has to want it. And it doesn't mean they can't get there. but they have to want it. So that is one of the first key ingredients to a successful hypnosis session. The second is an openness and willingness to participate, right? You have to, sometimes when we go through the hypnotic process, it's really talking about it, learning about what it is you want. And then, it's putting your trust, a little bit of trust that we're going to find the solution together. Um, there's not, sometimes, clients will come in, again, the presenting issue is not usually the underlying cause of what's going on. So my job when I work with clients is to do what I call the dig down. And the dig down is really going, okay, you're coming in, you have, let's say you're like, I'm having trouble sleeping, right? I'm an insomniac. That is, I'm not sleeping. Sleep, you're born to sleep, right? You innately are born to know how to sleep. It's a thing that our bodies do. But somewhere over time, you've learned not to. And we want to understand, okay, I'm not sleeping because what is going on? My mind is constantly racing. What is your mind racing about? It's racing about fears and worries. And what is my mind worried about? I'm worried that I'm not performing well at work. Okay, well, let's talk about work, right? Like what's going on at work that's making you feel this way? What relationships, dynamics? Then we're going to get into, oh, maybe my boss makes me feel like I'm not good enough. Well, what is it about that? Where's that come from? How do you want to feel? So we're going to get to the core and then we're going to flip it to go, what is it you want? A lot of hypnotherapy and the work that I do is really about forward momentum. And it's helping you learn to visualize, imagine, picture, pretend, play out what the future can look like, right? So if we go back to this idea of fear of dogs, it's what is your motivation? Is it, I might tell you, I'd love you to be in love with dogs. I love dogs. They're fluffy and cute and adorable. We've all seen Jimmy's dog. His dog is just adorable, right? But that might not be that person's motivation. So I have to understand them in context. It might be that they just want to simply be comfortable so that they can be in an environment when they're there without fear. And I'm going to take and pick apart their words and take their words and use them when we get you into the subconscious state to then feed it back to you like a negotiation, right? Your mind wants to say the same. It wants to stay with it what it knows, right? The most painful thing for your subconscious is what it doesn't know. That's why we get fear, right? When we think about the future, it's like, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Ugh. So we're going to borrow from the past of things that were similar, right? And put them on the future as like sort of like a guidance to go, okay, well, now I know and now I can prepare. But what I come in to do is like, wouldn't it be nice if you knew that you could let go of an old habit to feel this way, right? You're going to tap into and pull up emotions to feel more confident. There have been times in your life when you felt confident before. We can begin to bring that up. Your mind remembers everything. It really does. If you've seen, oh gosh, what's that movie, Candace, with the kids, the emotions, Inside Out. Um, all of our memories are stored places. And so if we can bring those memories up, we can overlay them onto the future of what like life can be. And so hypnosis is not a finite tool. Again, I can't just get you into the hypnotic state and go, you're gonna love dogs. I have to give you a reason of why you're gonna love dogs and how that will make you feel and who you become when you like dogs. And does that picture work for you? Right? And then what happens is all of that information goes into the critical mind where it sits there for a little bit and your mind tries it on. And it's either going to accept it as truth and reassociate, or it's going to go, yeah, chocolate's not, doesn't taste like poop. I'm just not going to buy into that. I maybe did for a little bit, but I'm going to kick it out. And therefore, I reject that suggestion, is what your mind says. So it's all about my job is so important in understanding you in context, not what everyone else has done, but you, not what everyone else wants for you, what you want and how you want to feel, what motivates and drives you. And that's how the subconscious works. So, any questions up into this point? I know I have the gift of gab, I suppose, but I hope we're going succinctly and clearly. No comments, no questions. Perfect.
No, just that people would love to use hypnosis to one, help me clean my house,
Ah,
and spiders is definitely a big one.
yep. Spiders are kind of creepy, right? And it's not. think of it this way. I always tell people when I'm working with an individual, first I need to strip away the rest of the world, right? I need to understand you at your core, right? And then that's what I call the inner circle. It's like, who are you? What do you like? What do you not like? What are your belief systems, your core values? And then, like, okay, now I get you. I can also add a next little layer of like, what have your experiences been? Where in your life have you experienced joys, traumas, pains, pleasures that have created the associations of how you behave in context, right? That's going to give me the who. And then I'm going to add a third ring, which is your relations, right? Your relationship with money, job, environment, physical body, all of these things, right? They go around you, they affect you, right? So, in relation to a toxic job, like those things push on you, those stressors, and how do they shift you? How do they affect you? And how would you like to change them? What is in your control to shift them? And so that's a lot of the more coaching stuff, right? I'm going to ask a lot of those like right questions to get the knowledge and basis that I need, right? What is it about your house and cleaning that is blocking you, right? Is it overwhelming? Is it too much? Like, do you like cleaning? Who normally cleaned? Where are your associations with cleaning? What emotions come up when you think about cleaning? And how can we shift that mentality, reframe it first on a logical level, and then bring it into the subconscious to let the subconscious really hear it. So we have about 4 minutes or so before we get into like the demo portion. We have a question. Yes, Candace. That's a really interesting question. Um, so when I work, I don't do as much medical support hypnotherapy. Um, I'm going to give a brief overview. When we're talking about pain, right, or phantom symptoms are really interesting, right? And there's a lot of science behind that. It really depends on, again, what you would want to get out of it. What are you experiencing that can be custom made to help you move forward with whatever blocks or discomfort you're experiencing? Now, what I can tell you about pain and hypnosis, um, one, pain is your body's way of talking to you. And so, first and foremost, my job is always to say, please talk to your doctor, have this medically checked out. I'm here to support if you're going through pain in the area of not taking it away fully, but taking down what we call the perceived pain, right? Have you ever noticed when, like, you're about to get a shot. A shot, yes, they're really uncomfortable, but there's the anxiety, the perception of what will happen and the discomfort you'll be in, that the pain of it goes up. It's that anticipation. And so when you're in discomfort, right, you're constantly thinking about it, worrying about it. It makes the worry almost makes the pain worse, until you can calm the mind down, and then it sort of subsides. And that's where hypnotherapy can work, is to dull that pain and the fear around it as well. Now, there have been some really incredible medical studies by, I believe it was Dr. Ellman, who he would work with clients one-on-one for, a long time. This is not like a one come for hypnotherapy and we're going to put you in like the subconscious state and you can undergo surgery. But there's a lot of talk about clients who are allergic to anesthesia, who, with the work of a hypnotherapist, can go through procedures just under the hypnotic state, because you can disassociate from the pain. But again, sometimes that's not a great thing, because again, pain demands to be felt. It's a sign that something's not right in the body. But again, if the pain is not really there and it's more perceived pain and stuff, you can also work to take it down. Usually when people are in those more really deep, like we're going to do surgery and procedures on you, what happens is you get them into the I can't remember if it's the delta state or gamma, but you are really disassociating the mind and the body. I know hypnosis can work with headaches as well. And what you're doing is you're actually, when people get really bad headaches, you can redirect the blood flow by having them focus like on their hands. And really, one, there's nothing worse than a headache, right? Like, it's right there in your head, it's pounding. And like you tend to think about it and you're like, oh, this is awful. And then your thoughts spiral around it. But as we begin to change your thought patterns, your brain waves, the change as well. You can begin to direct like blood flow into the hands. And as you think about like warmth in the hands, it can also begin to move some of that blood flow out of the head and begin to release and relieve a lot of that tension and tightness as well. So, um, so how do we go into the hypnotic state? We'll quickly jump into a little bit of that. When you're going into the hypnotic state, the process is not straight line linear. It's a little bit of everywhere. I like to tell people hypnosis is very similar to meditation in the sense that the first thing we're going to do is relax the body by using the mind, right? I want to give you things to think about. I'm going to direct you. I'm your cruise director. Hello. To tell you what to think about, what to experience, give you visuals. We're going to learn how you learn. So we're going to relax the body. The mind is going to be all over the place. Let's face it, people, like you have an active mind. We are born to be thinkers. It's a gift and sometimes a poison, but we're going to get the mind. And we're going to give the mind things to think about. Again, remember, we're getting it to focus on the body. The body relaxes, releases tension. Think about when you're asleep, your body holds no muscle, right? Like tension. So we're doing that. And then as the body relaxes, the mind begins to follow suit. So again, you are relaxing the body. You're going to go down. You're going to hear a door close in the hallway, right? You bounce up and then you're going to go back down. And then you're going to come up and then you're going to go back down. It's a process of like just constantly going like this. And what we're doing is we are focusing the mind, relaxing the body to open up to quiet the conscious mind, opening up the subconscious. Now, in the subconscious state, again, you are fully aware of everything that's happening. Same when you're dreaming, kind of, right? Like you know exactly what's happening as the dream's going. But there's a moment when you come up from the deeper hypnotic states that you may have a little bit of like, I knew what you were saying, but I can't recall it right now. Those are the deeper states because you do go from like a beta brainwave, like there is science, we're going to get into the next week, but you are changing your brain waves, right? You're going from beta, alpha, theta. Theta being the deeper ones where we work in. You don't have to be in the deepest hypnotic state to get the benefit of the work. And that's pretty exciting stuff. Sometimes even a light state. Right now, you might be in a hypnotic state, right? I might be like, think about your toe. Do you feel the warmth in the top of your toe? Some of you are going to go, yeah, I do feel like that's crazy. Some of you might not because everyone learns differently. Some people are very visual. Other people, it's more sensation. Like you might say you're going to feel a golden light moving through your eyebrows and you're like, oh, I can feel that. Like I just did a workshop yesterday and someone was like, wow, I can really smell that. Like they visualized like a campfire or something, I can't remember, but they're like, I could really smell it. And so don't worry about if you're not visual. It's all about like understanding the different command prompts. Are you physical, sensation-based learner? Go with what works. Just keep listening along. And there is a point as you begin to go into the deeper hypnotic depth. Remember, because like on a depth level, you are heading toward the sleep state. But as you go into the theta state, this is an interesting place because your mind is going to feel like it always has to pay attention, right? It's like if I'm not listening proactively, I'm not going to hear you. But as you're drifting into the theta state, there is this moment where it's like, gosh, I don't need to catch in my conscious net everything you're saying. I just sort of begin to hear you in the background and your words sort of float and drift through me. And that's where you're really dipping into the deeper depths. But it can feel weird to the logical mind because you're like, I'm not paying attention and hanging on every word that you're saying. And it's here you'll also begin to, as you go into the sleep states, there are a few things that change for you. Again, from a brain wavelength, your brain waves are changing, but there are things that I'm looking for as your hypnotherapist. The first step, and this is where we're going to tap back into that REM question. The first step if you want to check if you're in a hypnotic state, think like close your eyes, right? I don't know if anyone can, if I get really close. I'm in a hypnotic state right now. My eyes are fluttering up and down. I am in a light hypnotic state. That's cool. Very cool. It means I'm focused, I'm flowing, I'm in my zone. Now, interestingly enough, if I feed my mind positive things, I'm going to really start acclimating that into my subconscious for the critical mind to consider it. But if I start giving myself negative thoughts, I like to say anxiety is a hypnotic state, because think about it. When you're anxious, you are so zoomed in and your mind is just feeding you the scariest stuff, right? And you begin to feel it, you begin to believe it. So, again, that is a negatively induced hypnotic state. We can just snap out of it, right? Sometimes, like when I get anxious, it's just like clap, like pull out, zoom out, look around the room, break that. And that can be really helpful too. But, again, like the next thing that happens that we're looking for as hypnotists is the eyes begin to rock back and forth. And that's where you're beginning to get into the deeper depths. And then the eyes roll up and inward. And there are tests that we can give. Like our users called this, if you want to look it up, the Spiegel eye test. It has to do with if you keep your chin straight and you look up, and then you look up again. And then when you close your eyes, the more that they can stay rolled up and inward as the lids lower down, the more what we call suggestible you are, right? That means you might be an easier person to hypnotize or go into the hypnotic states. Not finitely true, but just a general sense. Um, but again, everybody can do hypnosis. But again, the Spiegel eye test is just a test that can help us go, okay, is it going to be a little harder, easier? What are their propensities for the eye roll? But that's why sometimes in hypnosis, we might say, look up and inward. You're getting the eyes to roll up naturally into that mind's third eye, where you're pushing naturally subconscious states. Candace has.
Well, two questions, but you kind of already answered one. So one of the questions is anyone susceptible to hypnosis? And the second question is, how do you go back to your original experience that's influenced you?
Oh, how do you sort of go back? Okay, so we're talking regression work. So the first question we're talking about, I sort of answered it, right? Like, great. Thank you for that question. I'm glad. Keep the questions coming. I love this. The second question, how do we go back? So you're talking regression. Regression is a really tricky thing, right? Like, my belief uh, is regression work should be done by a licensed therapist. And I didn't talk thoroughly through this. I am a hypnotherapist, a person who uses hypnosis in a therapeutic way. I am not a licensed psychiatrist, psychologist. So that means that I am able to work in a certain boundary without the supervision of a medical person or referral, meaning I can work on self-improvement stuff. I can work on like fear of flying. I can work on, you know, anxiety, as long as it doesn't have more of these medical ideologies where you would want the supervision of a professional or have them also be under in therapy. Because again, when you're doing hypnosis, you want to make sure that you're working within your scope. It's very important because a lot of things can come up, right? Um, for example, there is regression, and regression is where you're going to go into the hypnotic state. It's very similar in some ways to shadow work, which is going to work with the unconscious mind, where we buried our traumas down. But regression is really okay, now that we sort of know the general sense of when a behavior started, because that's when it started, that's when the link goes. You can regress someone back. It's like, for example, I actually did regression. This is perfect for my finger picking. I want you to close your eyes and like go, it's like I want you to pull up the emotion of picking, and I want you to, your mind can track back to, it's like pull up that emotion. When have you felt that before? And you can slowly bring it back and back and back to the moment. I was probably 1.5, maybe 2. I was back to the emotion, the pain that caused me to pick. And I was on my grandparents' carpet in their living room, and I woke up from a nap alone. And I was frightened, and it was painful. And for some reason, I didn't know how to cope with that pain. So I started picking at my nails, which was a physical pain that I did know. Now, I don't know that I would have necessarily believed that to be true, but in that visual, I knew the carpet I was on. It was really interesting. I hadn't seen this carpet in years, but I was like, oh, this visual is correct. However, it's very tricky when you do regression, because to have a therapist who is giving you leading prompts, it might be like, oh, well, why were you left alone? It's like, yeah, why was I left alone? Again, you have to find someone who's very skilled at it, because you don't want to implant new memories and cause a shift in belief, right? Leading questions that can cause the memories to be distorted, changed, shifted. Again, the mind is a very creative place. It can also shift memories. So when you pull them up, there is a distortion that can happen. So regression, you don't have to be regressed to get to the root of creating change. It can be helpful. My belief system is, even if these things have happened, it can be just as powerful to paint a picture of what life can be like without them. You can do inner child work for sure, because we exist at every age, right? We're like, what are those? The Russian dolls, right? We exist at the age of 1, 2, 3, 4, everything that you can certainly bring, instead of regressing back to the child and helping them work in that moment, which you can do. You can also bring that child forward to go, listen, let me show you my adult life and how life looks right now, and that we're not in the same place. So you can believe, you can trust, and you can trust the adult me, that the adult me is now here for you in the way that others weren't. So there's a lot of powerful stuff, instead of having to go backwards, that you can come forward. Yes, follow up question.
I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Oniric? Am I
Spell it.
Oneic.
I don't know that term.
Oh, okay. Robert said, and Robert, maybe he wants to clarify, but he
Yep.
says that he falls in and out of oniric when he's listening to other people. Sometimes it can be problematic because they think they're not listening, but actually he's listening so deeply that he leaves the conversation.
Yeah. So Eric, this is a Robert, my apologies. Robert, you are going through a hypnotic trance. And one of the ways that hypnosis can be instilled, you'll see this in stage shows, is being talked at a lot. It's Your mind is like a cup, right? And a cup can only take in so much liquid before it kind of like zones out. You are getting filled up and stimulated to the point where you're zoning out. Now, you're probably actually, interestingly enough, hearing everything that they're saying and taking it in. You're just not aware of it, but you are being overstimulated. You are being suggestible to all of that stimuli, whether it's they're talking, the sounds around you. One of those things is, if you recognize that that's happening, again, close your eyes, get back in the body. We tend to like flush into the head when we're in those hypnotic states. It's like lean back a little bit, get some distance. But yeah, that is the hypnotic state. I would say, if we're going to talk back about suggestibility, I know I talked about the eye roll. There are little quizzes that you can take on the internet to see where you fall in your suggestibility. The school that I went to created one, and they break you into what's called emotionals and physicals. I like to say, in like the most basic format, it falls into like, are you an introvert, extrovert? You can fall anywhere 50-50, but the reason that's important, introverts and extroverts get hypnotized differently. Some introverts, you're going to use much more of a metaphorical, like the world can feel light as a feather. Extroverts, you're going to be like, you are going to feel light, drop the shoulders. And it has to do with our history of how we take in information, because an introvert, or an emotional, as they call them, the way that information was given to them, it's like they're kind of in the is what you mean, what you say, because there was a discrepancy in messaging units being provided. An extrovert was given direct messaging, like, I love you, no, I love you, and they get a hug. Whereas an introvert, it's like, you just got spanked, and it's like, I love you, right? I did this because I love you. And it's like, how can pain and that mean love? And so it shapes how we learn. Um, Again, you can be an extrovert and have trauma happen and end up in the introvert. And same thing, you can be an introvert and then have trauma happen and just go go extrovert. But typically, if we pull the stress away, you're going to fall like 80-20, 20-80, 50-50. The most suggestible people fall in that 50-50 range. Um, but everyone can be trained to do hypnosis because, again, you're doing it when you fall asleep. So, um, question.
Many.
Oh, good. Here.
Any thoughts or opinions on Akashic records?
Akashic records. I have not done Akashic records myself, but it's definitely interesting. I'm gonna look into it and on one of the next classes, maybe get more information. But again, like I do believe I had worked with a medium who is a client of mine, and we talked so much about how important this subconscious, unconscious state is and how to get there because the same state's being used by mediumship. So I would imagine with Akashic Records, again, you have to tap into that subconscious where you're really expanding and opening your mind because we live so logically, right? We're told like children are so tapped into all this stuff, right? Because they don't have the logic telling them like ghosts aren't real and da 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 da. But when we tap our subconscious, so much information comes through. That's where your intuition is too, is really opening up these spaces. Next.
So Jill says she's finding her way, but she wants to know if this course is going to help in personal behavior patterns, or is this more just about the understanding of the practice of hypnotherapy?
It's both. So one, I think, obviously like each person is different and unique. So, as we work through it, I'm hoping that you guys will get tools to go, okay, first step, I might say, Jill, one of the homeworks as you go through this is to understand like what is my, my personal trauma. What always ask what, please, when you're doing the dig down, not why am I like this? Why we're going to get to the why, but to get to the why when we do a dig down, you have to ask what. And I know some people argue with me that it's like what difference does it make? And I'm like, what difference will it make? The what question frames it in a little bit easier. Why can be sometimes seen in the subconscious language as like a very shamey, blamey. Why am I like this? It's almost like you're blaming yourself or something for having it. It's like, well, what am I like? And then asking more questions about that. What is important about creating this change? What would life be like if I didn't have this? Again, we want to tap future. So, my goal is for you to understand the science, but also to create tools. I am out there. If people are interested, obviously, like you can certainly write me to work with me one on one. But I also, one of my part of my mission was to create access to hypnosis. So I created an app called Go Burble, Burble with a B. We wanted it to sound fun and bubbly because I don't think, mental wellness has to be heavy. And Go Burble is I've taken everything I've learned in my private practice and really implemented it into an app where in the app it's a choose your own adventure. So there are so many different categories for personal growth from everything that I've seen over the years. And the cool thing is when you create a burble, it's going to let you pick what you want to work on. So let's say you're going into manifestation or self improvement or sleep or what have you. And it's going to go, okay, I want to work on manifestation in that category. I want to work on being a magnet for money. Step two, you're going to pick how you want to relax, the visuals we give you. Because, like, I feel like there's in all these other apps, it's like a box version. It's like, here's a 20-minute recording for you. And it's going to end with you having to wake up. And it's like, but I want to go to bed. So you get to pick, like, first I want to watch a swinging pendulum, and then I want to go to the beach, and then I want to, swim in the ocean. And those are the visuals we're going to give you. The third step, pick the music you want, binaural beats or forest sounds. And then the fourth step is picking how you want to end it. Do you want to chill? Do you want to, wake up? Do you want to go to sleep? And then you get to rearrange your track and everything gets put together on the back end. It's my voice. So that is one way if you want to try that. It's an awesome program. We do 7 days for free. That's my plug. I'll leave it there. But my goal, Jill, is that one, awareness that there are tools out there. We are going to get into mini demos. Like we're just at about 49 minutes right now. We're going to do a little demo to show you. There is going to be a whole class on self-hypnosis and how to get into the hypnotic state, how to utilize it. You all have that power, and I want to empower each one of you That's always been my goal, even with my clients. I'm like, I want you to not need me. Um, and that would be amazing. Any other questions?
Yes.
I love it.
Um, why does hypnosis only work for a short period of time and then the problem area slowly reappears?
It's a really good question. So we had talked about originally having to believe the suggestion, right? So if I go in and I give you the suggestion that that chocolate looks like poop, right? Your mind is going to take that in, and maybe for a day or two you're going to go, "Oh, chocolate looks like gross. I just don't want it. That's gross." Like, and you think about poop. But at some point your mind is going to, because it goes into that critical layer where it gets picked apart, it's going to go, "Yeah, but chocolate's sweet. I actually know it to be true. It does make me happy, and therefore it kicks it out," right? It's like that. I don't really believe that to be true. Your subconscious mind didn't get the buy-in on the suggestion, and it will get rid of it. Now, the good thing is, for people who maybe didn't think that they could change, there's a couple days where they build confidence and like, wow, I actually didn't like chocolate for a few days. That gives me hope, and like that shows me like there is a potential that I can do something. The bummer is that, yeah, your mind does like chocolate. So that's not the motivational changer that your mind is looking for. So again, it's finding really what it is you need to you're letting go of to get the giver. I'm giving up my fear or my coping mechanism for something better that feels better, that feels right. And that's why if you are working with a hypnotherapist one-on-one, they really need to dig into your language of what it is you want and helping you discover that of what that'll look like, be like, feel like, right? Depending on your learning curve, like how you learn to put that in there. Now, there are other times, for example, I have reverted back to finger picking in my life. I had kicked it, and then my grandfather passed away, and it was really horrible. And that was another trigger. So sometimes you need to make sure you understand in that relation, me in relation to certain things, that you're pulling out those other triggers that can happen for you and desensitize them from there. So I hope that that answers and is helpful.
Two-parter. One is, can hypnosis take you back to past lives?
Yep.
And how many times a week should you be in the practice?
Great question. Can hypnosis bring you back to past lives? Yes. Again, it's really interesting. I'm going to tell a story because I think stories are a great way to explain things. Going into past lives means opening up the subconscious mind, right? To these access, these memories, these things that have been ingrained in either your spirit, your mind, your body. Um, when I first started doing hypnosis, I did have people coming to me for past life regression. And again, many minds, many masters, many lives, many masters had just come out, and Brian Weiss was really big, and people were loving it. And there was this assumption that like you can learn so much, and you can learn a lot from your past lives. I'm not poo-pooing it. But what I realized is a lot of people came in with an expectation that they were going to have like the same experience or these crazy experiences like they might read in a book. And some people were really disappointed. And it wasn't necessarily any fault of mine or theirs. It's just one, the expectation is not always set up properly. But two, some people just aren't as visual and they get blocked going into the hypnotic state, and therefore they're like, I don't want to do this anymore. But I have seen some incredible things, and I just also didn't want to be known for that. And I started seeing that grow and grow and grow. My main mission is anxiety. Um, so I made sure, like, I found someone I could refer to who did do it. And funny enough, both of those people started shifting out of it also. But yes, when you go into that subconscious state, you're going to lead people almost like, think of it, you're going down a spiral staircase deeper and deeper into the subconscious mind, and you're going to give them cues where it's like, you're going to find yourself like looking at your feet. And as you look at your feet, you're going to start to build a picture around that. And when you build around that, then you're going to have these different interactions, like seeing it from third party of like what's important about this lifetime that maybe is affecting you here, and reframing it and letting it go in that state. So hopefully that answers your question. Oh, and the second part, your second part, how often should you be doing it? It really depends on you of how much time you can commit to it. Again, if you're going to fall asleep at night, there are certain, you can utilize that time to practice. And, once in our follow-up classes, what we'll share with you is like how to know when you're in a subconscious state and what to do in it, right? Again, it's one thing to know how to get hypnotized. It's the second thing to know what to do when you're in that state of like, how do you give yourself the proper suggestions, the visuals, the belief systems. So you can do it every day. There's certainly no fault to that. Even if you do it once a week, listen, we're busy people. We get it. I would say just like, if you're becoming a swimmer, the more you practice, the better it becomes and the easier it becomes. But every day is going to be different. So just as some days it's easy to sleep, other days it's hard. But there's no right or wrong. Any other questions that popped up? Okay, cool. So I think what we'll do with our last few minutes, I want to just show you really briefly, like if you want to follow along, great. If you're going to jump off, like, thank you for joining. I'm looking forward. Next week is not on a Tuesday. Our normal time slot's on a Monday. Next week, I'm actually going on a much needed vacation after 7 years of never traveling with my husband. We're going away. So it will be, I think it's on a Friday at 12. So I will see you then. But what we're going to do right now, the first step is I'm just going to show you like an everyday thing of how we can bring up a memory. Now, it's not going to work for everyone, but it's going to work for a lot of you. And there's a reason. It doesn't mean you're not suggestible. It just means we would probably go about it a different way. But go ahead. If you're sitting, great. Just close your eyes, feet on the floor, get comfortable, relax your shoulders. And as you close your eyes, I'd like you to just take a nice deep breath from your nose into the center of your forehead. And as you exhale, let your shoulders drop, let your head relax. And I want you to imagine and visualize, picture, or pretend that you're in your kitchen. Now we're going to use the visual of a kitchen because we've all been in a kitchen. It might be yours, it might be your friends or your family's. But whatever kitchen you're in, just be there. And I want you to look around and remember where the fridge is. I want you to remember where the stove is and the sink. And we're just building this image slowly. We can remember maybe what the wall colors are or if there's windows. We're just utilizing our awareness to be somewhere. And it might be a flash of an image. It might just be a thought. Or maybe it's a clear picture. You're just going to note that because we're learning how you learn. But you're going to imagine that in your kitchen or wherever you are, that there's a lemon sitting on the counter. And we all know what lemons look like. They're yellow. They're kind of shiny and glossy. But I'd like you to walk over to the counter where this lemon is, and I'd like you to pick up the lemon. And I'd like you to hold it. Maybe you can feel the lemon in your hand, noticing if you're a sensory feeler. You can remember what the texture feels like. Maybe it's smooth, or sometimes those lemons have little indents in them. You can remember the ends of the lemon where it connected to the tree, that little nub. You can also maybe smell it. Does it have a scent to it? But as you put the lemon down, you're going to go ahead and get yourself a cutting board in the kitchen and a knife. You're going to bring the cutting board over and with calmness and pick up the knife. And I want you to cut the lemon in half. And you can remember how that feels to slice through a lemon. How when you do it, the juice sort of spills out at the bottom a little bit. And when you look at half of the lemon, you can see the seeds and the different segments, that typical lemon wedge look. Now, what you're going to do next is you're going to take this lemon and begin to lift it up toward your mouth slowly. And as you do that very slowly, you're going to remember the taste of lemon, right? That bitter, sour, juicy feeling. And when you get it close to your mouth, you can remember the tart sourness, that like bite that a lemon has. And I want you to imagine now, visualize biting into that lemon half and sucking the lemon. And then I'm going to pause you. Now, you can go ahead and open your eyes, bring yourself back into the room. This is called the lemon test. I'm sure some of you have heard of it before. What this is telling me as a hypnotherapist, and I want to share with you, is as you went through that, were you able to visualize it? If you see it clearly, you're a visualizer. If it was more of a flash, you're an imaginer. If you could feel the lemon, you have the ability to sense and feel. Now, the interesting part is when I had you bite into the lemon, that juice that's coming out of it, a lot of people will get a tightness in their jaw, right? It's almost like when you think of vinegar and that smell, or nails on a chalkboard, right? Oh, it makes me cringe. Um, what we're doing is we're tapping into a memory. So I now know that you're becoming suggestible to the words that I'm saying. It is not finitely true, but again, you're starting to learn how you learn. Like, I know when I think of nails on a chalkboard, I'm sorry for everyone that I'm triggering right now. Like, it's not the sound, it's the feeling. Like, so I'm a sensor feeler and I'm going to use more induction. So if you're going to the Burble app, for example, you're going to use things that are more like erasing the body, unzipping from the body, heavy body. If you're a visualizer, I would lay more into visualizing what it would look like, be like, feel like. If you're a sensor feeler, I'm going to talk about, heavy body, like all of that stuff. So, and what's really cool is there's no lemon there. If you did get the sensation of a lemon, like, you are getting triggered. You are literally pulling up. There's no lemon there, but you're making a body reaction. So you have a connection between the mind and the body. If you can have that happen, we can also undo some of those things too.